Jamie, founder and CEO of Classic Game Studios. You've been a tech guy your entire life. You've been a developer. And a couple of years ago, you moved to the GCC. I want to understand why the big move.
Yeah, okay. So before I moved to the UAE, I was actually in education. My love is in technology, and I moved into education to teach computer science. And this was in the UK. Then shifted to the UAE for a fresh take on education. Soon realized that I want to stay out, leave education a little bit and go back full time into the industry. And this is where I really sunk my teeth into Classic Games, which is my game development studio. So we're established in the UK, both been in the UAE, and now we're in Saudi Arabia. And the reason for it is there is a lot of opportunity out here to establish your company, build your company. There's a lot of opportunities in terms of networking, growing personally and the business itself compared to Europe. And it is a new way of living out here. Now I know I'm saying out here is quite broad. Every country has its own um, uniqueness, but generally, it's just a lot of opportunities out here.
So, the first question that comes to mind is what is a game development studio? Are you people who build a game from scratch? Like, how does it work?
It's a very, very good question. So our entire ethos and our vision at Classic Games is we want to create games that ignite your imagination and brings out your inner child. We are trying to create products, create games that elicit the same feelings you used to get whenever you were a kid. At the end of the day, after school, you'd run home, you'd turn on your Xbox, turn on your PlayStation, and you're sitting there for hours just enjoying yourself and making those memories. Um, so this is what we're entirely about, making games that are whimsical, childish, cozy, relaxed, to make you fun, make you happy. Now, creating games is a huge challenge. It's not as simple as just, I like this idea, go and create it. You've got pre-production, you've got actual production, you've got testing throughout that, you've got quality assurance, you've got marketing, you've got player feedback, you've got optimization, localization. There's so many different areas within game development. It's not as simple as just sitting down a laptop and smashing the keyboard a little bit to create something. Now, with AI technologies and different tool sets being available, productivity has increased, and you're a lot and people through from different areas within the industry are able to cross collaborate a lot more effectively. So, for example, a concept artist is now a bit more confident doing UI, for example. Someone who was into QA may be able to support with project leading a little tiny bit. So it does allow for a lot more cross discipline approach. But creating a game, it goes well beyond just playing the game itself.
So, how much time did it take you to decide that this is a good idea? And are you like thinking about it on your own as the founder, or do you have a team of people you brainstorm together, you A/B test with some kind of audience?
So we do as a team, we sit together and we'll have some food and some drinks and just relax and just come up with weird and random ideas. Sometimes we'll just pick words from a huge sheet, try and think of an idea that sounds kind of interesting and obviously fits our vision as Classic Games. Then we'll create some basic artwork, basic vibe, and we'll say to people that we're trying to target, what do you think? We'll get their input. And it could be as simple as having a website with four different images on it of four different ideas and just recording how many clicks those images get. Showing potential players, look at this artwork. How do what do you envision the game's going to be? Because, yes, we can create something for ourselves, but like I linked to earlier on, you've got to be creating a product that multiple people enjoy to obviously ensure your business is sustainable and sufficient enough. Um, so it is really focusing on community engagement and player feedback. So one of our visions one of our values at Classic Games is player feedback and community approach. We want to keep all of our players engaged with the active development of our games we're creating. Always get their feedback to make sure that we're actually creating stuff that, as I said, people want to play.
So I see two types of games. There's the games that are very short-lived.
Yep.
So you're gonna see the game, you're gonna download it, you're gonna use it, play it for a while, and then a few weeks later, maybe days later, you're just gonna download
Yep.
another one and forget about it. So what's the success criteria for classic games? Is it the number of downloads or the active users over a certain period of time?
It's a very good question. So I just want to elaborate on what you've mentioned just there now about the different types of games. There are games that are more market following, and they do what they do. They're quite simple games. Mobile games usually follow under this category. They'll take a core idea, replicate it, and adjust something ever so slightly to make a quote unquote new experience. And yes, those may last 1 week, 2 weeks. But it's very rare that those type of games are long lasting, like you're pointing out. We focus on premium games, which is your good old traditional. You buy the game is yours. We don't have ads. We don't do loot boxes, and we do DLCs and expansions and stuff like this. But one of our core tenets is to ensure that monetization is not frustrating for the player. So, how do you really ensure that your game is going to be a quote unquote success? And it does depend on what your KPIs are, your key performance indicators. Now, for us, we want to ensure that people are enjoying the game, but not addicted to the game. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive. Like, we want our players to come home and play our games, but we don't want them to be locked in. We don't want to use fear of missing out or season passes and stuff like this. We don't want to use predatory tactics to keep players engaged. We want people to be engaged because they're having a good emotion to our games itself. So we analyze download rates, the time a player plays the game itself, and how likely they are actually to come to the game after a certain time period. And these different metrics do come together to make an average player profile, if you will. And then we compare that to what we were trying to target, and then justify different causations on that.
Why is it important for you to be on the ground in the region? Because people can download a game that was built anywhere. So are you trying to build something locally for a specific reason? Are you trying to understand what people like, so you want it to be on the ground? I'm just wondering about that.
You're correct. You don't have to be in any specific location to develop a game for any market. In theory, I could develop a game from Saudi Arabia for players in Iceland, or be in Brazil and develop games for players in Russia. It is all about knowing your target demographic and you're targeting. That being said, there are some regions in the world where it is best to be there. China really stands out. China is a market by itself, and it is known to be quite difficult to get into that market without being there. Classic games specifically, we're in the Middle East, as I mentioned, because of the opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for grassroots and smaller studios to build and make a name for themselves. And we do want to be part of that foundational development of the games industry here in the region. We don't make games that are specific to any demographic in terms of culture, religion, ethnicity. We are really going for that, as I mentioned, that childlike, whimsical, playful experiences. And yes, you're correct. Those are different depending on each region. A child from Ireland is going to have a different experience in life from a child in South Korea. Um, so it is important to understand the developers you're targeting, the players you're targeting, and what makes them tick.
Do you feel like the region is heading in the right direction in terms of the interest, the funding? Because we hear a lot about Vision 2030, especially in the region, about these big, massive projects.
Yeah.
We hear about the stadiums and we hear about reforms. But what about the gaming industry?
It's a very good question. So whenever we say region, I think we need to disseminate. Are we talking about Saudi Arabia or the Middle East? The Middle East, you're correct. It is an emerging market. There's a lot of new players coming into gaming because gaming is more accessible, hardware is more accessible, and just the general the GDP of the Middle East itself is rising up, and players have more disposable income to play and buy games. Um, if we look at Saudi Arabia specifically, um, I believe they are going in the right direction. And of course, time will only tell. But I feel that everybody, if it's a person or a company or a country, needs to be given that time to quote unquote figure things out and try something and see what works. And yes, they have lots of different incentives from real estate to the gaming industry to making olive oil, but they are trying different things and they're putting not all of their eggs in one basket. Regarding the gaming industry, I am seeing a huge influx and support for both nationals and expats to come here, set up shop, and support the industry itself. You will have a lot of countries and a lot of organizations that do support a company moving into the country, but not really get involved as much. So a lot of the contracts that you'll see with the games industry and Vision 2030 for Saudi Arabia, there are some caveats and some requirements for the studio to actually be based here, to operate here, rather than just say they are working here. And I think this is a great incentive because it keeps, like you said, it keeps me here, keeps me on the ground, but also feeding into that ecosystem locally.
Yeah, I have to hit you with the AI question now. So, so many new
Yalla.
tools, so many, so much innovation happening. And I'm not talking over the span of years. I'm talking maybe every couple of weeks you have this new tool
Yeah.
that's going to disrupt everything. So how much of this new technology are you leveraging internally for your development? And the second part of the question, do you see this as a growing threat because people would be able to prompt entire games? Are we getting closer to that,
Yeah.
or is that still far away?
So AI, yeah, it's a tool to be used, and it has to be used correctly and effectively. You're seeing a lot of tools popping up that, like you said, are going to disrupt the industry. But what's happened is, these different tools have been barrier to entry has been lowered, and because of that, you're getting quantity and not necessarily quality. It's good in the sense you could have smaller players, compete a little bit more. But as it is a new technology, you'll see. I feel you're going to see a lot of AI companies not really have a product, not really have a studio or a company. It's a bit of a facade, if you will, because the technology is new and people kind of don't really understand it fully. To answer your question about making prompts and will you be able to create games in the future, now we're going to understand that the AI tools that we currently have are just large language models. They kind of guess what we want based on probabilities and the model that they've learned from. I would argue that there's no true generative AI out there that can properly understand itself and understand what it's trying to create. And a great example of this is if you go into most AI models and it gives you a piece of information and then you contradict that information and you tell the model that it's wrong, it will mostly believe you. It's not able to disseminate if it's correct or not. Until we're able to create tools that can 100% say they're correct, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Regarding creating games, we do use AI tools to increase our productivity, but there's a whole lot more, like I mentioned, in game development than just player sees. We'll have people out there saying that they're vibe coding a game and they're able to make basic versions of Snake or Mario or some simple games. But this is because these models have been trained on history, trained on these here previous pieces of code. Um, and yes, you could you get different ideas and different code and stuff like this. Um, but these projects or games become huge in terms of the framework, their assets, their pipelines. And currently, from what I know, I understand, there's no tools out there that is capable of handling an entire project. So um, I don't think AI is going to be taking the game industry away. I think there's still going to be a lot of people within it. But as I mentioned earlier on, people are going to be able to reskill and cross collaborate a lot more effectively. And it does reduce that barrier to entry. So you will see new, fresh talent coming into the industry that may have not had previously, because this new platform is available for them to learn and engage with.
Jamie, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. That was really
You're
super
most
interesting.
welcome. You're most welcome. Well, thank you very much for having me, and I hope people listening or watching learn a little bit, or feel a bit more comfortable in anything. And thank you very much for reaching out and having this conversation.
Awesome.